Reno, Nevada. Let's get ready to rumble! 10 rounds of boxing in the heavyweight division. Introducing first, fighting out of the blue corner, wearing the blue trunks with white trim, weighing in at an even 216 pounds. From Johannesburg, South Africa, ranked number 12 in the world by the International Boxing Federation, he brings an excellent professional record of 39 victories, 27 KOs against 4 defeats. Ladies and gentlemen, introducing Pierre Costa. And his opponent across the ring, fighting out of the red corner, wearing the red trunks with white trim, weighing in at an even 258 pounds, ranked number 1 in the world by the International Boxing Federation, number 4 by the WBC, number 4 by the WBA. This 1968 Olympic gold medal champion is 71-3 as a professional, 66 by KO. Introducing the former heavyweight champion of the world, Big John.
All right, gentlemen, we went over the rules in the dressing room. I want a good, clean fight. Obey my commands at all times. Shake hands. Good luck to both of you.
Foreman and Coates have gotten their final instructions. There's a look at Big George, 258 pounds. That's up there for him a little bit by modern times. He came down quite a bit during his comeback several years ago.
Well, if he drops 20 pounds, he's not going to be any faster.
No.
Maybe I take that back, the way he ran across the ring like that.
Remember before George Foreman fought Jerry Cooney in the comeback trail, he said, I'm down to 250 because I starved myself and I don't feel good. I feel too light. And then he proceeded to get a 2-round knockout.
Pierre Coates are doing the right thing, Dave. Sorry, he's moving around, doesn't want to give George a stationary target. Then stay outside because you don't want to get hit flush with George's power shots. But George has always possessed a very strong and accurate left jab.
And a menacing uppercut if he gets anywhere near you, no matter what angle he throws it from. And you would think that the Tommy Morrison blueprint would be the way to fight George Foreman. Go ring post to ring post, move laterally, and try to get Foreman to move his legs so that maybe he'll be tired later.
But Foreman has, people don't realize that crab-like defense where he crosses his hands in front of his face, very hard to penetrate. Kind of leads you only to go to the body, but George's body is so big, he sucks those punches up to the body like a sponge. So you keep trying to hit down below, he brings it over the top and nails you.
And Coates are fighting with a lot of confidence early on here against Foreman, getting the jab working on the outside, popping the hook to the side, showing the movement. The jab will be the key for whatever Coates can do. And there's that defense Tony was talking about. Coates are very snapping with his jab, but unable to get through.
You keep throwing even though it's there, because sooner or later he's going to have to open his arms a little bit. The interesting thing is with all the bouncing around that Coates is doing, George is able to land that ramrod left jab. He just kind of flicks it out to him and it finds Coates' face. Coates continues to move and tries to give angles to Foreman. Foreman's cutting off the ring, but still finding him.
Foreman not usually known as a fast starter, and Coates comes at him. Big question will be what happens the first time Coates gets hit, as is the question of anybody George Foreman fights.
Foreman looks pretty good at 258, Dave. He doesn't look fat, and he's very, very agile on his feet.
There's nothing wrong when you can say that at 258 pounds, that you're still pretty fast. Says a lot. And Coates has the right style for Foreman in the opening round. And this scheduled 10-rounder is off to a pretty good start in terms of its pace. Foreman and Coates.
Don't miss the excitement.
George Foreman, Pierre Kotzer start the second round of their scheduled 10-rounder. Foreman, as you saw earlier, ranked #1. And also #4 in a couple of organizations. And Kotzer on the fringes of contention in the 11 to 12 range. That makes him barely eligible for a title fight. So he would really rocket into one of those situations if he could pull an upset here.
What's scary is watching George bounce up and down. I mean, the old guy has a little spring in his in his legs. That's the last thing you want if you're Pierre Kotzer.
You're figuring that Foreman is lethal, but he'll be in front of you, and if you move to the side, you'll be fine. You're not expecting him to be bouncing and moving with you.
I like what Kotzer's doing. He's giving angles. He's coming to fight. He's throwing punches. He's landed a few. It's a game guy.
There is that stiff Foreman jab, and it really is a purposeful punch.
And what makes it so obvious, and looks like Kotzer's cut on the bridge of the nose, it's not moving his head. He's just walking right into it.
Foreman able to push off, and we see some redness also around the eyes of Kotzer, and he is bleeding from the nose for sure.
I'd like to see George go to the body and see what happens, and see if that takes the bounce out of Kotzer's legs, because right now his most effective weapon is that straight left jab right to the head of Kotzer.
Foreman pretty happy with where Kotzer is. He can catch up with him. There was the right hand by Foreman. Kotzer is gutsy in trying to take his shot here.
Kotzer's up there. He's still moving, but he seems like he bounces, doesn't move, and George nails him. No body shots by either guy right now, just headshots.
And Foreman can't be discouraged by body shots. Kotzer would certainly be slowed by them, and he tries to flurry, but Foreman catches most of those, making Kotzer go over the top to get his shots home.
I think Kotzer's throwing shots to George's face because George is coming off a controversial win over Alex Stewart, where his face blew up from the punches that Stewart landed. So Kotzer figures, let me throw a lot of punches and blow this guy's face up. But George seems to be handling himself all right.
It was the first time in a long time that afterward George looked like he'd been in a fight.
Yeah.
So he wants to establish a different scenario here, and he's gotten off to a fast start on the nose of Pierre Kotzer, and Kotzer is also fighting with a lot of determination. We start round 3. George Foreman and Pierre Kotzer. The site, Reno, Nevada. Dave Bontempo along with Tony Page for a heavyweight bout that is off to a brisk start in terms of its pace.
I was surprised. Most fighters who go up against Big George run away from him. Kotzer's using his legs, moving a little bit, not moving his head a lot, but he's come to fight. George has just been effective with that straight left jab that keeps snapping Kotzer's head back.
Kotzer has been tactical with his movement and fires the shots there. The only problem is it's hard to discourage George Foreman. He has been hit by everybody.
Kotzer not moving his head, just taking that left. He's just too close to George. He should be able to bounce in and bounce out with his feet, but he's staying there and he's having his nose cut open. He came to fight, but he doesn't have the power of George. Not many do.
And he eats another jab here to the nose, and the blood continues to flow. And this is the most accurate we've seen Foreman's jab in some time.
And it seems like he's reaching, but it's just so strong, just snaps Kotzer's head back.
When you're a veteran like Foreman, you can move just a little bit a subtle way, and all of a sudden you are in punching position. We've seen the Foreman jab. We have not seen the occasion for the uppercut, which is his real money punch.
And George keeps coming forward, coming closer and closer to Kotzer. Instead of Kotzer pulling back a little bit, every time he stops, George hits him with the left.
Who would have thought that Big George, the 258-pound fighter, would be conducting the boxing clinic against a guy 42 pounds lighter?
Figured George would be huffing and puffing, but all he's trying to do is blow his man down.
Sometimes you see that Foreman can be in some tremendous shape. Other times you don't see him as strong. But Coates, I give him a lot of credit for trying to get in and discourage Foreman. Boy, he does pay a price of admission.
He is. Oh, sure. He's getting his ticket punched a few times there. I like Coates. You got to give him a lot of credit. He's standing up to George, but it's very, you know, you're impressed with it, but he doesn't have the power to back George up. So George just stays there and throws a left jab right through him. There it is again.
And Coates can't even stop the Foreman jab.
No.
At least you would figure that he would make the adjustment to stop that.
Just put your hands up and kind of block it down, but he's just taking the punch flush.
End of the round coming up. Foreman and Coates. It's been a good one so far. Stay with us. There's a lot more. George Foreman and Pierre Coates start the fourth round of their scheduled 10-round heavyweight bout. Dave Bontempo and Tony Page with you. The site is Reno, Nevada.
You know, this is a good pace for a heavyweight fight. Coates has set the tone by moving a lot, making George work. But George, you can see the sweat glistening on his body, both bodies by that matter. George is keeping pace with Coates, even at his weight. He's moving around the ring and using that left jab.
And George Foreman cutting off the ring pretty well here. Not really having to use all of the ring. Foreman is in the center and does not have to use all of it. So he's conserving his energy and popping Coates, who opens up with a left hook. Coates is making this an action fight for sure.
He came to win, which is good to see. A lot of guys go in against George and are kind of nervous. He's trying to fight back, even with the cut nose. He's trying to use his jab, but George tends to block a lot of punches.
There was that wild right by Foreman and a big hook, and Coates is down.
Walked right into it.
Walk right in, sit right down. And Coates in good shape because he's able to get up from that. That would put him out if he wasn't in superb shape. Just when things were going a little bit too good for Coates, he is in deep trouble here.
And that's another good
shots
shot.
by Foreman. Coates is right back on him.
Coates is staying in there, Dave. Even though he's been down, he's still trying to slug with George.
We see that Foreman uppercut put many opponents away. It's not that often we are treated to the hook doing the damage. There's a big right by Foreman. He thought Coates was going down. He stopped.
George coming forward shows you the power of George. He hit Coates really not full force, and he dropped him because he's just such a naturally hard puncher.
Foreman's punches are heavy, as they say in the business. Not just because he's a heavy man, but they just land with so much snap and power. And again, Coates' head goes back, and Foreman looking at the referee as if to say, are you going to stop this or what?
Now, Foreman did the same thing in the Alex Stewart fight. He had dropped Stewart twice, asked the referee to step in. The referee didn't, and then Stewart came on and started to pummel George. So, George, if you want to take Coates out, do it yourself. And here comes Coates.
Coates trying to make this quite a battle. He's been on the floor in round 4. Making Foreman work, and George Foreman is working. So a fight that has had a good pace gets its share of drama as Coates walks into a left hook bomb. One that would have put him out if he was not in better shape. But he is in good shape, and he survives a very difficult fourth. Well, Coates' corner has to be concerned.
Let the doctor take him out.
How you doing here? You want to continue?
This is where Coates' problems really unfolded in the 4th round.
He seemed like he was very much in control. He was coming in and out, taking advantage, but got hit with that big left hand, and down he went. Delayed reaction. George with a little right hand right before it also. Saw where the punch came from. Look at Coates.
Big hook by Foreman. really did the damage. The right hand escorted him. So Foreman, who's been known for the uppercut, right hand in behind it.
George would be 70 years old, can still knock out half the division.
You don't lose the power.
No. And the way he just hits Coates with that jab, it's just so sneaky. I mean, we've seen it so many years, but it's quick and it's accurate. He's never lost the speed off the jab.
And it's a very hurtful blow, as opposed to just being a scoring blow. It sets up his uppercut. It gives opponents something else to worry about. So Coates, who was on the floor and in very bad shape in the 4th round, got up, and at least from the perspective of being in the fight, is still here.
It's like the knockdown never happened. I mean, he's just bouncing up and down. He's effective. He's trying to get in. Not effective enough to win the rounds, but he came to fight. A little short, sneaky right hand by Coates. He's just trying to give George some angles.
Coates looks good enough to beat a guy at 216 pounds, but not a guy 258.
No. But at least he's not trying to work inside and push George around, because that'd be suicidal. Plus, you just tire yourself out.
Plus, it might bore the spectators into tears. But Coates is making this a live fight, and Foreman is responding. And we have not seen a slowdown. It's been a nice pace in this heavyweight bout, something that is rare in the division.
And when Coates keeps moving and punching, George can't throw that left jab. As soon as Coates stops, that's when George shoots the left.
Coates walks into another Foreman jab, another good Foreman left hand. Foreman continuing to stalk. He's in no hurry at all. He can land the jab anytime he wants.
You just wonder if George is going to throw that right hand right behind the jab. What happens?
I think the fight's over.
I think so.
If he can get that in, if he can lull Coates with just a jab, make him forget about the right hand, then land it. Foreman landing some good shots here. Coates coming back. He is game. But Coates has started to lose some steam off his shots.
You can see the bounce in his legs aren't there. George goes to the head and then back to the body and up to the head.
Foreman roughing Coates up with a combination now.
Come on, we got it. Come on.
Coates continues to take heavy shots, but he tries to make this competitive. So Coates works the body, fires with everything he has, as we come to the end of round 5. Another good one for big George Foreman. There is Pierre Coates. He has taken a beating from George Foreman, but is game and competitive as we start the 6th round.
Coates is still looking to give George angles, but every time he stops, he pays the price. You can see his face looks like it's shredded, and that's all from George's left jabs.
And you can't keep it to one pace forever. And you get a good look at Foreman's defense and what Coates has to do to get a punch in. He's got to go over the top of Foreman's defense.
He's so big. People don't realize if you've ever stood next to George, he's a really huge man. Now here's a heavyweight like Coates, 216, trying to punch around George. It's the hardest thing to do. And while you're trying to figure it out, boom, George hits you with a left jab.
And you are leaving yourself open in all angles. That's the advantage of the reach and the size of Foreman. So Coates continues to do everything he can, and then get out punched downstairs. Foreman with a good jab, then a right hand to the body.
Coates trying to land something to keep George off him, but doesn't have the snap in his punches. Right hand seems to be blocked because it's coming from a longer distance. George has his hands up and can break it, can block it.
Big uppercut by Foreman. And the bad news for Coates as he takes another one is that his movement has slowed considerably. And the less ring he uses, the more trouble he encourages. And the eye of Coates in very bad shape, which is an extension of what Foreman has done to the nose.
Foreman just keeps throwing that left jab. Very accurate, very powerful. Is busting up Pierre Coetzee.
2 shots for Foreman behind. The jab now really getting some power shots in. Good jab by Foreman.
Again, Foreman looks at the referee, asks for a little assistance, but none coming from Joe Cortez.
It's as though Foreman knows what he could do to Coetzee if he really opens up.
Last time he did that, Coetzee started the flurry on him, but I don't think there's much left in his gas tank.
And Coetzee just receiving shots now by Foreman. His response time takes longer. He's firing less back and taking quite a lot from Foreman. Good hook by Foreman.
Coetzee just a punching bag right now. He's taking punches. He should be throwing back, but George just keeps walking through him.
Foreman with a good right hand, good jab, and now the percentage of punches landed for Foreman starting to increase as he is just getting shots home, and Coetzee isn't strong enough to keep off Big George. So Foreman winning it big over Coetzee. George Foreman is putting on a show for the fans in Reno, Nevada against Pierre Coetzee. Coetzee came out, flurried, moved, tried to do everything to discourage George Foreman, but did not work, and George Foreman really starting to unload in the last round.
Coetzee's not moving as much. He just dances a little bit and stops, and then George goes back and can reach him. After 6, Foreman had 60 to 53. Coetzee was down in the 4th. That was a 10-8 round for George.
Hold the head, Pierre. Hold the head.
It's all George Foreman. There's nothing Pierre has to slow him down.
I was about to ask you, rather than did Coetzee win any rounds, do you have him winning any minutes?
I think maybe somewhere between the 2nd and 3rd minute of the 1st round, but that was close.
Foreman is in vintage form here, and Coetzee just overmatched here, very gutsy. You have to give him a lot of credit for coming to fight and being in an aggressive mode against Foreman, but you just can't give Foreman this much to shoot at.
Coetzee has a major flaw. He doesn't move his head, and that's why all George has to do is throw a straight jab, and he catches him.
The upper body, the head glued there for Coetzee, unable to move it. And these are some of the subtleties that separate a number 12 fighter from a number 1 fighter.
If you don't move your head and all I have to do to hit it is just throw a left jab out, I'm going to throw it out all night.
And that is exactly what George Foreman has been doing. He's been throwing that jab out all night, coupled with right hands like that. And that's a short, chopping, powerful one by Foreman.
The best part of Coetzee's game is bouncing up and down on his feet, but he's not doing anything with it.
He needs to be firing punches from that angle. So he's got some of the technique down, and there's a little bit of action by Coetzee. He's still pretty gutsy here.
With big heart, but he's taking a lot of punishment.
And he moves, but often just into the path of more Foreman punishment. Foreman pounding the body, the head, landing with just about anything he wants, and Coetzee continues to take abuse. Hook by Foreman.
Even when Coetzee throws a punch, it kind of has an arc on it. You could just see he's tired, doesn't have the range anymore. Looking for a home run punch that he does not have.
And so round 7, like the others, not very kind to Pierre Coetzee as Foreman does his work. Foreman is cut under the eye.
No problem.
Big question about how long they'll let this go.
Coetzee was very game early in the fight, was hanging in there, didn't have the big punch to slow down George Foreman, but he did move his head and kept getting hit by that left hand by Foreman, that left jab, which just came straight, very quick, very accurate, and snapped Coetzee's head back many times and did the damage under his eye and along the bridge of his nose.
Try hitting with an elbow. Hit you with an elbow.
And Angelo Dundee in Foreman's corner. It's not often when George Foreman can be called son. But Angelo Dundee, everybody is son. Foreman, as you saw, 44 years old. And a good look at the crowd on hand. As we start round 8, scheduled for 10, it has been all Foreman against Coetzer.
Coetzer still active, still trying to work that left jab. Can't seem to get past Foreman's defense.
Problem is, how does he do the impossible, which is knock Foreman out, because that's the only way he can win after falling behind so much on the cards and already been on the canvas once. A terrible feeling for a fighter, not having the guns and knowing that you need them.
And no matter what you try and throw at him, he's hitting you with everything and backing you up and busting you up.
Boy, think what would have happened if Coetzer wasn't in shape. I mean, this is probably one of his better fights.
Still has the bounce in his legs, but no snap in his punches.
Foreman catches him coming in, stiff jab by Foreman, and puts another one behind it.
Looks like he's cut under the left eye, or cut under the right eye on the bridge of the nose, and the left eye looks like it's turning black and blue.
Coetzer has been sliced up by Foreman, and that left hand has been the culprit.
And George continues to come forward.
Coetzer swings wildly, misses. Foreman with 3 big shots, 2 jabs and a heavy right hand. And a big right. Coetzer is down.
There's no reason for this to go on. He's taking a lot of punishment right now.
He doesn't have the punch to stay in the fight. Coetzer too game for his own good, but look at that nose, and Foreman about to close this out. Tremendous uppercut. Joe Cortez will stop it.
Good stop.
And Foreman went along with it. He didn't go overboard with that, knowing that as soon as he showed some offense, it would be stopped.
Oh yeah, good call. Coetzer was game, but just didn't have the firepower to slow him down.
A pleasing performance to the fans by Foreman. Coetzer did all he could. Just too much Big George to contend with in this.
George was very accurate with his punches, right on the button.
So George Foreman had it going his way the entire fight, had a knockdown earlier in the bout, and would be able to add to it.
Coetzer came forward, didn't move his head, got caught right on the button, delayed reaction, down he went. George just caught him coming in, right hand right over the top. He set him up with the left all night long, caught him with the right hand right on the button.
And the first thought was this could have been a broken nose for Coetzer, the way Foreman nailed him twice on the nose, and that second one on the bridge, blood spurting all over the place. And amazingly, after that, Coetzer wanted to fight. He had a ton of guts, but he could not get the glory. Let's get the final numbers from Michael Buffer.
Ladies and gentlemen, referee Joe Cortez has to stop the bout at 1 minute and 48 seconds in round number 8. The winner by TKO, the former heavyweight champion of the world, Big George Foreman.
Well, did you like that? We've got more George Foreman coming up on ESPN.